Greta's Grand Adventure. I hope you've been following the saga. It's been so much fun. Let me take you through it from the beginning in case you missed anything, because, your city might have been on fire. You might not have been following, Greta's big boat adventure. But she took a ride on a boat, and that's where we start. Climate activist Greta Thunberg joins the aid ship sailing to Gaza, the sailing boat Madeleine, operated by activist group Freedom Flotilla Coalition, certainly not at all tied to anything on the left. Totally independent organization. Departed from the Sicilian port of Catania in southern Italy. It will try to reach the shores of the Gaza Strip in an effort to bring in some aid, sure, and raise international awareness for the ongoing humanitarian crisis, they said at a press conference. Which, of course, is their real job, doing press conferences. We are doing this because no matter what odds we are against, we have to keep trying. How dare you, Thunberg said, bursting into tears during her speech yet again, because the moment we stop trying is when we lose our humanity. And no matter how dangerous this mission is, really, is it dangerous? Was it, Greta? It's not even near as dangerous as the silence of the entire world in the face of the live stream genocide. Yeah, I really haven't heard anything from the Palestinian side this entire time. They've been totally silent. Not one person speaking up and saying that it's been a genocide and Israel's causing it. That's just been so quiet. I mean, sure, there's been a demonstration basically at every major college every single week for the past, year and a half. Till what did that start? I mean, it was such a while ago. How could I possibly know the date? Let's say October 8th, 2023. Interesting. Anyway, so she's going to go on this boat. Here is the boat, by the way. It's a fabulous boat. Does that look like a boat that people struggle on? Does that look like a flotilla? Does it? To me, it looks like a freaking yacht. It looks like the type of thing that I couldn't afford to rent for a weekend. That's what it looks like to me. It looks incredible. Except for the Palestinian flags. I definitely wouldn't rent that one. By the way, as I mentioned, you're not going to be surprised to hear the funding for this particular boat adventure comes from who else but London-based Hamas operative behind her flotilla, Zahir Birawi. He was described in Parliament as a person with, quote, links to Hamas, called himself a founding member of the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, which arranged the voyage by the aid boat Madeleine. Not Madeline, but Madeleine. Israel vows to prevent the aid boat carrying Greta Thunberg and her other activists from reaching Gaza. You, of course, know what happened with this one. Defense Minister Israel Katz said Israel's not going to allow anyone to break the naval blockade into Palestinian territory, which he said was aimed at preventing Hamas from importing arms, which they were doing, by the way. The reason why the blockade exists is because aid shipments that looked like aid shipments were actually arms shipments. To the anti-Semitic Greta and her fellow Hamas propagandists, I will say this clearly. You should turn back because you will not make it to Gaza, he said in a statement. Of course, that was, obviously going to be the way this story turned out. And it did turn out that way. Israeli forces seized Gaza aid boat carrying poor, lovable, huggable Greta. Now, Greta was on this ship. This is what it looked like. I mean, look at how terrible this life looks. She's got her hands up. This is the moment it happened. She was like saying, live stream genocide. Oh, they were, of course, live streaming their boat adventure, I'm sure. And then she was kidnapped. Yes, kidnapped. I'm saying that I know it was a kidnapping. The Israelis who said, don't come, we have a blockade there, we're not going to let you through, then kidnapped Greta. Now, one of the things you know about kidnappings, obviously, the first thing the kidnappers do is let you release a video about your kidnapping. Not one that says, oh, please come here and rescue me, like a hostage video. No. Just you get to tell your side of the story. That's one of the things that hostage takers like to do. They want to make sure they give you all the options to get your side out there, just in case people are upset. They can, so they can be identified. They get credit for the kidnapping, all the things that kidnappers always do. Here is Greta with her kidnapping video.
My name is Greta Thunberg and I am from Sweden. If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
Greta Thunberg! Now, of course, the word comrades, pretty useful. I mean, could have said buddies, could have said pals. with comrades there. I don't know what the Swedish government's going to do about this situation. I mean, they're probably like, good God, do we have to deal with her again? Greta Thunberg, she was going to be released almost immediately from all of this, of course. But that didn't stop media members, pro-Hamas apologists, coming out and taking her side and saying how terrible all of this was. In fact, how shocking and impossible it was. Mehdi Hassan, who does this basically for a living, said, just imagine the response from the West if the Iranian government in international waters had rammed and then boarded a European ship filled with European citizens and taken them captive. But it's Israel, so it's all good. Our citizens don't matter. Interesting. There was a response to this, by the way. We don't have to imagine it, Mehdi. In November 2023, Iran-backed Houthi terrorists hijacked the Galaxy leadership and took its 25 international crew members hostage. They were held in Yemen for over 14 months until January 2025. How many times did you tweet about that? Now, I don't want to send you to Mehdi Hassan's Twitter page, but what you're going to find is zero is what you're going to find. So don't bother. So Greta goes on this boat journey. They tell her in advance they're going to stop her. They do stop her. Now, again, this is a genocidal regime by their telling, right? All they're doing is killing people. That's all they want to do. You'd think they're in the middle of the ocean somewhere. They could make anybody disappear, I'm sure, if they wanted to. Genocidal regimes, like I don't remember Hitler being like, you know what, we're going to make sure we release all these Jews immediately when we catch them. That's not normally what happened back in the day. It doesn't happen when Hamas captures them, as we found out, unfortunately, far too many times since October 7th. But the Israel Foreign Ministry did tweet out this lovely picture of Greta. Greta Thunberg is currently on her way to Israel, safe and in good spirits. It's an adorable photo of her in a little puffy life jacket with a frog hat, just smiling at a wonderful sandwich. And I will say, if you look closely, pre-packaged sandwiches. What kind of genocidal terrorists are they? Pre-packaged sandwiches. I mean, will you please just cut the sliced meat fresh? Is that too much to ask? All she's trying to do is break a naval blockade, and you're giving her pre-packaged sandwiches? A disgrace. Disgrace. Where is the international courts when you need them? Not telling the story about the challah sandwich inside a wrapper. Oh my gosh, just abhorrent. It's the only thing I can come up with on that one. Of course, again, a genocidal regime doesn't hand out sandwiches like that. They're not usually doing that. By the way, they are doing that also to the people who came over the border and killed and murdered and raped a bunch of their citizens. They are distributing millions of meals across Gaza. The lies about them being starved to death. I mean, does anyone at some point recognize how hungry they'd be by now? Like, they're like, oh, these people are going to starve to death. How long? Like, I don't understand. You've been saying they've been starving for like a year and a half. At some point, they get too hungry, right? Like that, they would starve to death. Now, it's a really difficult time over in Gaza for the 10% of the population who doesn't want every Jew to die. So, I feel bad for those people. That being said, Israel is distributing lots and lots of aid over there. Now, a lot of times when they bring it over there, it gets stolen by Hamas. A lot of times when they bring it over there, the people bringing it over there get shot at. So it's a little bit of a difficult operation, but certainly there's a lot of help and help coming from America as well for aid into that area, supposedly targeted towards the people over there that don't want every Jew to die. But it's hard. It's a really difficult thing to find at times over in that category and in that area. And I categorize that mainly by polling that we've seen of the Palestinian territories. The Gaza-bound aid boat with Greta Thunberg is on board, arriving in Israel after its seizure. So what do? They brought her to Israel. What are they going to do? Torture, right? First of all, prepackaged sandwiches and then torture. Those are the two things on the agenda. Shockingly, not really. There was a medical exam to make sure she was okay. The Selfie Yacht, which is a great name for this. The Selfie Yacht docked at a port a short while ago. The passengers are currently undergoing medical examinations to ensure they are in good health, as any genocidal maniac would do. That's the story of Mao's, communist China, when he would constantly bring people in for medical evaluations before murdering them. That's, of course, how that went as well. And shocking, deportation was around the corner. Israel deporting Greta Thunberg and other activists on the Gaza aid boat, Ms. Thunberg and another passenger were flown out of the airport near Tel Aviv. 2 more activists were expected to be sent home later on Tuesday, according to Israeli officials. 8 other passengers from the vessel, the Madeleine, refused to sign deportation documents and were brought before an Israeli immigration tribunal on Tuesday. It's interesting that Greta did. She's like, yeah, I'm going to sign that thing. Let me get out of here. I was only in here for, look, I knew it was going to happen here. You got to believe Greta knows, right? She's been a professional activist her entire life. And she knows what's going to happen here. If she really believed, if she really believed there was going to be a genocide going on and these people were, if she really believed that these people were Hitler, right? Will she really turn herself over to their military? Is that what people were doing to prove a point back in World War II? Not really. And not to mention, I'm pretty sure the awareness that ball is being carried by people like Mehdi Hassan in the media. Everyone knows about this. If you want to believe that the Israelis are genocidal maniacs, there's plenty of news sources to tell you that. You don't need to go on a boat over there to drop off a couple bags of flour that you know you're not going to. Here she is on the plane home, looking she seems to be wearing a ribbon of sorts. I'm sure that's meaningful to her for some reason. Her defenders, however, and also Hamas apologists, were on the case to make sure that everyone knew how terrible the situation was for Greta. This is one of them. Not the most important thing, but just to underscore the depravity. Now remember, the depravity of the moment. Think of this. You've got these depraved, awful actors, genocidal maniacs. What are they doing? Are they torturing her? Are they doing what Hamas did to Jews on October 7th? No. What they're doing is giving her prepackaged sandwiches. We've already criticized them for that. We're on record. But also, they're flying her on a plane. And as this activist goes on to say, it's almost certainly the case that the Israelis put Greta on an airplane because they know she doesn't fly out of principle. So they wanted to humiliate her and get a propaganda image out of it for kicks. Now, I will say, if that's why they did that, it would be worth it. 100% worth it. If that was the reason they did it, great job, Israel. However, as Noah Blum pointed out, what other way is there to get for her to get back to Europe? A bus through Syria and Turkey? You could do that. I suppose you could take a Greyhound through Syria, but I don't know. The Damascus roads these days are a little bumpy. I don't know that I would necessarily go that way. By the way, I love this one as well. Arian Wexler points out, world record, Greta Thunberg becomes the first hostage victim in history whose kidnappers' only demand is that she leave. It's so good and so true. Trump, of course, got into the middle of this as well. He was asked about Greta, and here's what he had to say.
Do you have a message for Greta Thunberg, and did she come up on your call with the Prime Minister today?
Well, she's a strange person. She's a young, angry person. I don't know if it's real anger. It's hard to believe, actually, but I saw what happened. She's certainly different. Anger management. I think she has to go to an anger management class.
Yeah, she's a little intense. She doesn't seem like the person who'd be having lots of fun on vacation, right? She doesn't seem like the person you necessarily want to travel with. Greta did respond to that. She said, the world needs a lot more young, angry women. I assure you they do not. The world does not need more young, angry women. We do not need more Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes in the world, right? We do not need a lot of, a group more, another collection, if you will, of young women whose IQ is lower than their age. We do not need that. I promise you that's not a thing that we need, and I know it's difficult to understand. By the way, if you were worried about how it would be to vacation with Greta Thunberg, look no further than, a week before she went on this yacht and this important journey to stop fascism or whatever she was doing. Greta was on vacation and on a wonderful beach in Italy. Were you? Did you get to a wonderful beach in Italy anytime recently? I hope you did. Like we do, research has shown we have a very affluent audience on this program, but I would say most people, even in this audience, probably weren't in Italy enjoying the water, enjoying a little swimmy time. I feel like I'd see her in swimmies. I feel like she normally would wear swimmies, but there she is. Celebrating right beforehand. I will say it's a bit of a pivot from beautiful Italian beach to I'm fighting terrorism or fighting genocide for terrorists. in Gaza. And she's had a big transition. If you think about the path that she's taken just to get there, the boat which was not just a sailboat, the sails weren't up. It was I guess a diesel engine on Sinai, chugging along, then getting all the Israeli military out there to stop you, bringing them back, and then bringing you across land, and then having you fly from the airport all the way back to Europe. A lot of emissions that didn't need to go into the atmosphere were emitted. But if you're this big pro-global warming activist, that transition might seem a little jarring to pro-terrorist, which she's kind of gone, a big anti-Semitic transition, though in reality it's not as jarring as one might think. There's actually an incredible amount of crossover between those two groups. It's almost like they're actually not two groups at all, and really just one, with one goal. And, as we say, as I think it was David Horowitz first said, the issue is never the issue. The issue is the revolution. And that is where we are. Now, I don't know, honestly, if Greta Thunberg knows anything about this. I mean, there's been conversation in the media by, some medical analysts and stuff that have talked about her situation. She does deal with some sort of ailment. She's been talked about. She at least describes herself as on the spectrum. I don't know if that's true or not. But if that's true, one of the, often you hear about kind of an extreme focus on certain things, when you're dealing with a situation like that. That could be what it is. Like she gets, so overwhelmed by what she's dealing with that she gets focused on one thing and can't let it go. Whether she's right or wrong is not really the issue. And of course, it was never the issue for the media, whether she was right or wrong. Now, she's made people a little bit uncomfortable because of the constant anti-Semitism that has crept into her commentary. They kind of promoted her. I think she was Time Person of the Year one year, wasn't she? I think she was Time Person of the Year one year. When you raise someone up like that, again, she was a child at that point. When you raise someone up like that and you tell them everything they say is magical and you're making such a difference, a lot of times they go down weird roads like this. And then you're like, oh, crap, wait, that's who she is? We didn't really necessarily want to embrace all the anti-Semitism stuff. The normies on the left are saying that. Of course, the movement on the left is saying, actually, those things work perfectly well together. They're very, very consistent. And Greta might very well just be a useful idiot. Maybe the most useful idiot most idiot person of all time. She really doesn't seem to know anything about the stuff that she's talking about. And it's sad. I do think there is a bit of sadness tied into all of this. She's an adult now, so you feel a little bit less sad mocking her. But frankly, she deserves to be criticized. She's been given this gift of a massive platform, and she's using it to basically argue for a group of people who want to murder all the Jews in the world. So it's hard to really give her too much sympathy, frankly. But that was one of the things. Now, when she was a kid, he felt bad, and he didn't like the influence that was hitting her. She's an adult now, so she kind of is a little bit more fair game. That was one of the reasons, actually, why the first time we talked about Greta on this program. By the way, I think you'd like it. Go back and watch it. It's episode 2 of this program. It's called Stu Does Greta's Parents. And I remember the second show that we did was Stu Does Greta's Parents. They were surprised by the whole night, the whole evening. But we went through where the motivation comes from, because that's the sad part about the Greta story. Her parents led her down this very bizarre road. They were very strange people in the first place, led her down a very bizarre road, let her kind of essentially become a social media star, right? Which is never a good idea for your kids. And then in addition to that, if you kind of build on top of that whole story, when they stopped parenting her like that, the media and the left took over in that role. They became her parents. They became the same type of people, almost like the really bad, agent that takes over some Disney star and tries to, does all sorts of crazy things behind the scenes to make her famous. That's kind of where we went with the story. They're using her. I don't know that she knows it. She might know it. She might like the life in Italy, going to the beach, and maybe this is fine for her. Maybe this is just her lot in life at this point. But she's being used by horrible, horrible human beings that are having her go out here and make an idiot of herself in her young adult years. It is a sad, sad story, but one you certainly shouldn't put past the media, because Anything that will help their cause for 5 minutes, they're willing to say. They don't care. This is what they do.